Well, with no forewarning, here we are early to talk about Dunk and Egg Episode 4. I mean, it's actually called A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, if you didn't know. And yes, even I will admit this episode was a little bit better, you know? It was okay, you know? Really, it was just the ending. Actually, no, the whole episode was probably a lot better than usual. There was only one terrible moment, and I'm pretty sure everybody knows what it was. But, outside of that, it was quite faithful in many sense, if you care about that sort of thing. And I even think it's Day something. Whatever the oldest brother's name is, I thought his portrayal was pretty good. Damon? Or is it Dayron? But Dayron's the king. But it would make sense. They repeat the names all the time. It starts with D. Damon the Dreamer. Sounds like the fucking name I'm pretty sure I hear a lot. And he has dreams. Did you know that? He had a dream that he thinks is going to come true about a dead dragon, will he? Are we still not spoiling in this thing? I guess, maybe. We'll avoid future spoilers. Also, I did forget that the the one-eyed guy from last episode was one of the champions in the end. And nobody in the comments made fun of me for that, so maybe people didn't remember, or people don't really care about Riled Riesling or whatever with his one eye. He's supposed to look like the warrior. I can't remember if he gets much characterization in the book. I don't remember if he... I'm trying to think. Was it a religiosity thing? Because I feel like when they all show up, they all do give, like, a reason why they're there. And it's pretty obvious. Like, two of them, both Humphreys want revenge. Unless the other Humphrey isn't there in the show. I don't think they would have changed it, though. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's true. I'm pretty sure we see the red-haired dude on a horse. So there's the broken leg. There's the Humphreys that bonded over their great battle that was never in the show, and they've both joined. And then Riesling, and then the Fossway, Baratheon, and Dunk, and the Prince, of course. Don't worry, I figured it out. But true, everything was fine. Nothing was like annoying me. None of the characterization seemed off. Dunk seemed kind of more Dunk-like in this episode, especially compared to the others, so that was nice. Egg is still a little weird, but he's okay. I think Makor is alright. He's very different from the book. Obviously, he's very sweary and irreverent, as the show is. But generally, I think when he's on screen, it's alright. Obviously, his relationship with Aeron being like much more like slapsticky, like he pulls him up and wants to fight him at the end or whatever, or at the end of that one scene they have, and the falling on the floor and the Lord going under to get it and all that silly stuff is whatever. I guess there is a little bit more annoying, stupid not Dunk and Egg bullshit, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms bullshit in this episode. Don't worry, I have my scene by scene breakdown, so we'll talk about the scene at the end. And also, we're going to try and keep this brief just like we did last time. What did we get to, like 15 minutes last time? We open on Dunk in the prison cell. It's very damp. There's a cool shot of him. Now, I couldn't tell if this was it or it was just the old HBO dark is very dark thing. But it seemed like when you first see that shot, you're supposed to think he's like looking at the stars, right? And then we come to understand that it's like the dark inside stony wall of a cell. I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell if it was just supposed to be the stony wall that slowly came into focus. Maybe it's an interpretive shot. There were some interesting directing flourishes in this episode too. Like Dunk hearing the words and stuff, like that Tansel said in the storm and stuff like that. There were a few little directing things like that were actually a little cute. But yes, he's in his prison cell. I do like the image in the book where he's like looking out of the bars or whatever and trying to see, and he's overhearing the tourney and stuff because he's in there for a whole day, but they've changed a bunch of things like that. A lot less focus on the tourney in the show, which is interesting because I guess my assumption going in was probably that they were going to focus on it a lot more to get some action in there, but they didn't. There's also an interesting thing where, now we're just skipping ahead, but when the Baratheon guy shows up, who was like everybody's favorite character in the show apparently, that the show has definitely gone out of its way to give more characterization and interaction to, when he showed up, it wasn't that big of a deal. Like, you think he would come in like singing or something, or he would have a scene before that with Dunk where he like went to him and said he was drunk and said he would fight for him or something, and that would be like the payoff of that whole added scene where they're dancing and talking. in episode. That was in episode 1, right? And I expected, like, probably what you would do if you're going to expand a Dunk and Egg show, which you have to if you're not going to have it be like an hour and a half long. In this case, it's 3 hours long. You feel like you would flesh out and build the relationships up with all those characters. The only one that feels like the relationship is carried over is the armorer. But even then, that was like, I feel like that was better in the book too. But it was like, in the book, he seems a lot older. And so it's like it's kind of like the jovial old, not jovial, but the old, like, sweetheart, very wide, short armor dude. It's like a trope. And it's very likable. And him and Egg, like, scurrying around trying to get Dunk's armor on is a good scene, and none of them can reach. That was all sort of just cut, I guess. So that's fun. But true. He has a thing, then they go into the hall, they set up the trial by combat. I feel like Balon... No, it's Baylor, right? Balon Breakspear? Baylor Breakspear. Baylor, I believe. He comes off a little less on Dunk's side than he does in the book, I think. It's his voice or something. He comes off a lot... But I kind of like his voice in the show. It's very interesting. It comes off very, like, less calm, I want to say. Or, like, less powerful, maybe. I don't know. In the book, Dunk, when he meets the two princes, he's like, oh, Maegor's like Maegor Core with a K, not with a G. That's a different guy. Doesn't seem to be battle worn at all, but like Baylor, like he says, his nose has been broken many times, and it's like, oh, he's like the cool badass one, whereas the other one's just like a prince that sits on his ass or whatever. Whereas in this one, it's just kind of like he's reading, he's like a sweeter, more dutiful guy or whatever. I don't know, it's a little different, I would say. They're having a trial of the 7. They say there hasn't been one in 100 years. The only one is the Maegor one. Haha. We just accidentally said that guy's name. Which was probably 100 years ago, right? Or a bit more? I'm still not entirely sure about the fucking dates and shit. But they're also kind of pretending it's a little bit more. But they also say it's ancient, and then they say it's like 100 years ago or whatever. And Maegor didn't know what it was, so haha. That was a little bit of haha, because we love haha in our Dunk and Egg show. But true, they have to find 6 guys. The twist, the like misdirect with the cousin is very interesting. I find it very interesting in book and show. I guess it makes sense. He gets bought off to be a lord to fight for the other side. But it's very interesting because at first you're like, wow, this guy that was like clearly a bad guy is on our side. That's like interesting. And then to have him switch, and it does make sense because it does feel like Raymond's been built up as like probably the 3rd or 4th most important character in this book. So it makes sense for him to get his big moment where he gets knighted and gets to fight his cousin at the end. So it's funny how it all like turns out and the sort of journey you go on through those two, through the misdirect, I guess. He agrees to fight, and then they're all going to get anybody, and then we get the scene with Dayron. I'm gonna say it's Dayron the Dreamer. He comes in. His personal, private little conversation with Dunk is interesting. The prophecy that we know will come true by the end, I guess, or you don't if you've only seen the show. And how he's scared. He doesn't want to be the dragon that's killed, so he's asking Dunk to like spare him and stuff like that. And I like his and Egg's relationship in comparison to Egg and Aaron's relationship. It's interesting. Honestly, I'm interested if any of the brothers are in the other Dunk and Egg books when I read them. Because honestly, I don't really know. I know the 3rd one is about the Brackens and the Blackwoods or something, and the 2nd one is about something in the Westerlands, maybe. But I really don't know much at all. I would assume they're not, though, which is a little boring, because I would like to see just the dynamic of the brothers and even like Eamon and stuff like that and how they all fleshing out their interactions a little bit more. True, we get the thingy. I don't think there's much else in the episode besides the last scene. There's a few aspects of this that are really good. There's some that let me down a little bit, and obviously the fart was terrible. Um, and it's good that they continued the scene after the fart, because it's like probably the most important scene. Well, like the biggest scene, the most important scene in the book, and for them to do the punchline with the fart, I was like, oh yes, everybody's going to agree with my video now. But then they continued, and honestly, I did like the acting in the first part a lot better than the second half. I think the actual line that I believe was in the trailer, I remember it being a lot cooler in the trailer than it was in the actual show. The are there any true knights among you? That line. The acting from the dunk guy was better than usual. Usually I don't know. He's probably an okay actor. He's just being directed to be a bumbling retard, and it's really annoying. Here he wasn't, obviously, so it was okay. The other aspect is the it was actually a good little bit where it's because it was actually a joke, but it's like a meta joke, and that's the only reason it's like cool. It's not even really funny, but there's the knighting thing, and obviously Dunk's really nervous because he doesn't want to knight Raymond because he knows he's not a knight, so it would like continue the corruption of the lie of being knighted down, and he's like guilty and frozen about that, and luckily Lionel Baratheon steps in. And that's a good scene, and the POV shot of the guy looking up and starting the fucking saying, it's pretty soy, so we're all soying out about this, and it's pretty good. In the name of the warrior, whatever the fuck, and as it continues. But the great bit is because famously we don't know the full knighting thing, because in the books it keeps getting cut off, which seems to indicate that it's got some sort of reveal for the plot or the lore or something. And George does this in a bunch of other ways. I'm pretty sure there's a whole Preston video about this one like fairy tale that Kat repeats to herself all the time, that she never says the final line, and the final line probably indicates why Sansa is important to prophecy or something. Because it's about different girls with different colored hair and stuff like that. So George likes to do this a lot. And like, I honestly can't remember, what did they do with the Jaime Brienne scene? Did they just make it up? Did they just cut it short? Because I think it's like the last 3 lines we don't know, because they go through God by God, and I think it's like the Stranger and 2 of the other ones that they never say. And the good get around for like doing it off stream, because obviously in the book Dunk rides away, so you don't hear the rest of it, and it's just like he knighted him in the background or whatever. Here it's like we're hearing it, and then we cut to Sir Alan of Pennytree shrugging, which is like a 2 things, because Dunk doesn't know it, because Dunk was never knighted. And also it's like a little, because I was like, did like George tell them and we're going to reveal it now? That would be an interesting thing for the show. I was also kind of scared. I'm like, I don't want this reveal to be in this shitty show. And then the shrug, I was like happy about that too, because it meant we got around that. So that was cool. The knighting thing was cool. The other cool part is obviously the Soy Out anthem here, where and it recontextualized the first episode, Fake Out, with the opening theme, where the opening theme plays at the end of this episode when Baelor says he's going to fight with Dunk, and it's a very dramatic, pretty cool moment. The fucking music starts as he rides in and stuff. Even I was soying out a little bit. Very obvious, like, an overdub, like a re-recording line from Baelor here, which was a little odd. But it was pretty cool. It is interesting because I've been thinking about the original show quite a bit, I don't know, over the last 2 days. I think it's because I've been thinking about Succession a lot. And then I remember in the Succession discussions I was talking about, like, it's probably in the upper echelon with all the best shows I've ever seen and stuff like that. It's probably at the bottom, but it's in that upper echelon. And I remember listing them off. And the one I didn't list off was Game of Thrones. And I don't know, just thinking about, and I thought about this a lot when I was making my scripted Dunk and Egg video, where it's like, that original show is like a very fascinating piece of media. Now, obviously, there's like the thing of like, well, the first half of the show was like a 10 out of 10, but the second half is a 0 out of 10. So it evens out, and you can't really confidently say that Game of Thrones is one of your favorite shows. Even if the first few seasons probably are up there with the best seasons of TV ever. But then I've been thinking about that a lot, because I wonder if it is good. But I have rewatched like certain bits quite a lot, and relatively recently. Like, I'm pretty sure I watched all of season 2 like 3 years ago, and I still thought it was like obviously great. So I think it's still good. It's just like a very weird tonal thing. I absolutely, if I had read the books and like that show came out today, I would literally say probably everything I say about this TV adaptation about that original show. And I probably wouldn't have liked it at all. But I mean, there's just a unique caliber to the base appeal of that show for the like base reasons of the hyper violence, the hypertension, the hypersexualization, the hyper fucking intrigue to the plot, and the constantly switching perspectives and every plot, and the craziest thing happening every episode, stuff like that, where it is truly like breakneck roller coaster TV, I think. I don't know. I would at some point I've got to go back and watch that whole show and reassess what it even is, because it's a very fascinating thing to me. Like, I don't think there's anything like it. Like, even something like Black Sails, which people say is Game of Thrones with pirates, is absolutely nothing like tonal Game of Thrones. I'm trying to think if, like, I nearly said, like, maybe the closest thing is, like, Berserk sometimes, but that's not even true. That's just true in its, like, brutality, I think. I don't know. It's a fascinating thing to reflect upon, and I have been thinking about it a lot recently. Oh, and why this plays into everything is I've been, like, kind of shit-talking it in my head, being like, it's probably not even good, it's probably not even important, it's probably, like, if it came out today, probably people would make fun of it for all of its, like, overly edginess and stuff like that. That's also probably not true. People would probably just love it. Like, House of the Dragon is very much Game of Thrones kind of for a more modern lens, and it's funny because Game of Thrones ended in like 2018, but it's like a little bit, and also it changed a lot towards the end. Not even just in quality reasons, just fascinating. Like, early 2010s, what a weird world we were in. Like, pre-Donald Trump, it's like a whole different reality, and a bunch of craziness. Anyway, I have fleshed out thoughts about the original Game of Thrones, I think. This is all, the actual point here is that when I heard the song and I was swinging out at the song, it's like, well, clearly it has some sort of a nostalgic hold on me. Because that was another part of my thought process was like, do I really like those original episodes? Like, because the books are such a substitute now for, like, a lot of the aspects I really liked about it, and I think the books are probably just way better in most regards, especially, like, character-wise. It's like, what is left for me to, like, care about that show? And I guess the emblematic moment of swinging out about the music shows that it has some sort of a hold. Involuntarily, I was made to face that fact in this scene, and that's probably part of the reason I thought it was soyrific. I was soying. Because there is an aesthetic there that's just fucking crazy. What is Game of Thrones? Anyway. We'll unravel this another day, I think. Should we rewatch the whole show? I've seen season 1 so many times, I don't want to do it again. Even though I haven't seen it in, like, I don't know, 5 years or something. I watched it, like, twice to try and make a big video on it, I think. A long time ago, but never did. Anyway, we've been making YouTube videos too long, and this video is nearly at 20 minutes, which means I'm ruining my whole conceit here. So it was probably the best episode of the show. The soy out moment at the end was pretty good. The fart was terrible, and there were some other terrible aspects. Everything's a little lesser than the book. Everybody should read the Great Duncan Egg books. I'm going to start the second one soon, I've decided. So yeah, that's all we have to say about this one. I saw on IMDb, now usually it drops after a little while, but this episode had a 9.7, which is fucking crazy. I think I do like the 30-minute, what do you call it, idea. I feel like whenever I get to the end of House of the Dragon episodes, I'm always upset that it's over, so I guess I probably wouldn't like it in that format, but for this show, I think it does work. It's brief enough to not be too annoying. But yeah, Silly Duncan Egg, episode 4, it was good, I guess. 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 maybe. Probably not an 8 out of 10. But true, I guess we'll be back in like a week and a day, I think. Well, this is probably going to come out tomorrow, so yeah, it would be a week and a day to the next one, because apparently this was sidetracked for the shitty Super Bowl. Who gives a fuck about dumb, lame American sports? Is there anything lamer than American sport? I don't think so, but, what can I do about these things? Not one man can stop the Super Bowl, and apparently Game of Thrones is scared of it too. So, anyway, that's it. We'll see you in a week and a day. Support links in the description below. Thanks.